Commence primary ignition.
This is the way.
What is up, all of you Ugnaughts and Jawas out there, and welcome back to yet again another episode of Mando Talk, where we are spoiler discussing, breaking down the latest episode, the latest chapter of The Mandalorian, and on this one, we've got Chapter 19 titled Now. Big shout out real quickly. I want to say thank you so much if you checked out last week's podcast episode. The numbers on that, on the audio waves, was hot. So thank you so much for checking that out. And I got to also thank Zach Horvath for being a part of that, because I think that helped. And guess what? He's back. Zach,
I'm back.
What's up, man? What's up?
What up? Yeah, man, I'm back. So glad to be here. I love talking Star Wars, especially The Mandalorian, and especially with you, sir. So happy to be here.
Yeah, well, we've got a very interesting chapter of The Mandalorian to break down. I think it's safe to say this one, I think, hit people differently depending on who you are and what you're looking for out of The Mandalorian. So there's a ton for us to discuss on this episode. And of course, at the back end, after we do our breakdown, we will talk to you guys over on Twitter at Mando Talk and Discord. You reached out to us. You gave us some things to talk about, so we'll definitely do our due diligence with that. Before we get this started, I do want to do our plug. Make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast. Hit that subscribe button. Give us 5 stars. Give us a rating if you're on podcast platforms. Give us the like if you're on YouTube. Do all those great things to help this continue to grow, and let's keep cranking these things out. I'm having so much fun. It's so good to be back home, and let's continue that ride. And we'd appreciate it if you're joining us with the ride. All right. Let's get into it, though. Chapter 19, titled The Convert, was directed by Lee Isaac Chung and written by Noah Clore and Jon Favreau. Now, I did not have the opportunity here to figure out the past of this director, but I do know Noah Clore wrote a lot of Book of Boba Fett episodes, so I know people in the fan base were expecting or speculating that if we're going to get Boba Fett, it's going to be now. That didn't happen. I was okay with that. What were your takeaways just of the direction of the writing in this chapter, Zach?
The writing. How about I give my overall?
Yeah, do
Overall,
that. Sure,
is that
go
okay?
for it.
And then
That's
I can
fine.
dig
That's fine.
into specifics.
Yeah,
I just don't want to do specifics and then overall. You know what I mean?
yeah, I got you.
So overall, I would say it was fine for me. I'm one of the
Okay.
ones that I'm on the back end of the it hit you a certain way.
Mhm.
So as for the writing and the directing, the writing was cool. Like, I was interested. It didn't hook me.
Okay.
That's my issue with this episode. And that's the thing it had to do, frankly. Like, it hooked me at first and then lost me.
Yeah,
So that,
the
I guess
beginning and end of this is
dude,
banger.
I almost wish
Banger.
we didn't have the beginning and end,
Really?
because
Okay.
it just made me go, I want that. I
Mhm.
don't want whatever this show is that I'm watching now,
Yeah.
because I didn't even remember the girl.
Okay.
I didn't even know who that was.
Okay.
And I remembered him, and I was like, okay, is he bad still? Like, I don't know. It just didn't work for me as a total thing. Did I not like it? Definitely not. Like, it was fine. That's
Okay.
why I said it was fine. But the writing was a little weird, and like, why are we talking about this now? And they didn't even really give us any answers for like the cloning and whatnot. Yeah. All right, let's dig into it. What's your take?
Yeah.
What's your take?
No. I was with you there at first. I thought it was, and I texted this to you. I think it's funny. This is the dad joke of me coming out. It was jarring to me that we paused on The Mandalorian there, and we visited Dr. Pershing. But I gotta say, after a second, and then I needed a third watch with this one. I really appreciate what I think they're doing with this. So really my enjoyment of this episode is my anticipation of what I think is going to come of it. So I think we definitely do have different takes on this. At the end of the day, I really enjoyed the world building aspect that this one took the time to do. But it's okay that we have different opinions and it hit us differently. That's what makes this so great. So if you're somebody listening that is one way or the other, you're being represented right here on the podcast respectively. That's what we're going to do here. So let's go ahead then. Those are kind of, that's my overall sense. I really, really dug this one. Zach, you said it was fine. That's fine. Let's do it. Let's dive and dissect this. Maybe I can persuade you,
Maybe you
Zach.
can sway me. Yeah, maybe you can sway me.
Let's do it. Okay, well, in my
Probably
notes
not.
here, nice. In my notes, I labeled this The Mandalorian Episode Part 1. Okay, let's get into it. Bo-Katan is still deep in thought from seeing the Mythosaur as Din Djarin awakens, with Grogu right by his side. Din declares himself Mandalorian yet again and scoops up a capsule of the living waters to seemingly use as proof for the armorer. Bo-Katan says she saw him become a Mandalorian again, but even more importantly, she asked him if he saw anything in the waters that was alive. He did not, and she does not inform him of what she saw, and the three of them depart the planet. Couple of takeaways here, few takeaways. Din does confirm he just fell because he didn't know it was that deep. So that was something we talked about last week. That admittedly a little clunky last week. I was good with the explanation though. Number 2 here, it was very wise of Din to get a sampling of the living waters because no one and no shot is anyone in the Children of the Watch going to trust Bo-Katan off word alone. So that was very wise of you, Din. I didn't know the armor had this magic Dumbledore like potion sensing thing.
Looking at memories
there,
through
we'll
tears
get
type
there for
situation
sure.
here.
And the last takeaway from this moment, my theory from last week appears to be coming together as far as Bo-Katan seeing this as an opportunity to lay claim to the Mandalore throne and title for herself. So it was at this moment I was like, "Oh boy, we getting it. We getting it with this one." What did
all
you
I
think
could
of
think
this
about
sequence?
was you in that moment. I'm like, this dude called it, man. And if you haven't listened last week, go listen. He called it. He said she's gonna keep it to herself, like, or she could. I think is how you worded it.
Right.
Great call on that because I didn't take it as her saying like, all right, I'm going for the throne or anything. I just took it as her letting it marinate a little bit. Like, what do I do with this information?
And especially by the end of this one, I think I'm with you. I could see how she's like thinking about it still.
I didn't take it as like I'm not going to tell him, ha ha ha.
Right.
I took it as because she was very cautious when she's asking him like, what'd you see down there, right? Like, did you see anything living? And he's like, oh yeah, I slipped or whatever he says, and I was like, all right. So this dude who's like survived everything walks in water and slips to the bottom, but whatever.
Well, to be fair, he didn't know it got demolished or whatever Bo-Katan says as far as it becoming deeper than what it originally is. To be fair.
Why is he unconscious on the bottom?
Obviously, he needs some gripper slippers. He doesn't need just the boot.
Okay, he slipped into the water, but when I slip into water, I just kind of float. I don't just.
Hey, we don't have to wear Beskar, you know.
That's true. Don't get in the water with the Beskar, all right? But all right, so that
or without
aside,
the jetpack, it looks goofy.
I switched that away quickly. I was like, all right, that's dumb, but whatever. Don't care. I want to see what Bo says. She doesn't tell him. I think that is super interesting. Calling back your writing there, think that's fascinating, and I feel like that's a Jon Favreau call right there.
Yeah.
Like that was so. I'm so glad she didn't tell him, frankly, because that kind of drew me in. I was like, ooh, what's gonna happen? And then we get the rest of the episode. But to talk about one more thing, the living water call out, perfect. Because I literally audibly said, like, dude, get something. Like, you need proof. Like, you can't just say, oh, I was there, I saw it, So I thought that was very cool. And when he gets to them at the end, we'll discuss how I think that's extra cool.
Yeah.
But what's your thoughts?
A lot of cool setup right here, and definitely elaborated on a bit toward the end of the episode, so I definitely can't wait till we get back into that. But of course,
Mhm.
this opener continues. Extremely hot opener here. We keep going here. As the three are traveling through space, Bo-Katan offers Din Djarin to stick around for a feast, but she doubts Din will ever take his helmet off again, and the two share a "this is the way" response to one another before they are suddenly attacked by Imperial TIE interceptors. It seems, though, Grogu may have said "this is the way" too, or this was my initial interpretation when I saw it the first time, but it was the second and third time that convinced me it was, in fact, "this is the way." But another option there was maybe he sensed the attack and he's trying to babble and warn them that, oh, you got these interceptors coming in. But I really do think it's the "this is the way." Which one do you think it was, Zach?
I immediately said, like, he just said this is the way.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
so what hit me first was Bo Katan saying it.
Mm-hmm.
Because like that caught me off guard. I was like, oh, and then he like babbled, and then Mando turns to him, and I was just like, did he just try to
Yeah.
say this is the way? Like
It's
it made me
like
so happy.
it was
And then we
great.
get this awesome. I'm a sucker for a dogfight. All right,
Same.
give it to
Same.
me. And these have been so well done so far.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Some of the best. Some
I
of the
am an
best.
absolute sucker for the shot that's mounted on the ship and it's flying and it's like
Yeah.
looking. I love that in anything. Top Gun
Mm-hmm.
Maverick, Star Wars, anything. And it has never looked better than
No, you're
in this
right.
show. Like it looked so real in some shots where it's like mounted and it's like looking back at the what are those called?
Interceptors.
The interceptors.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this looks sick. This looks so
Phenomenal.
good. And then, we overall, I loved Bo saying this is the way. That made me happy.
Yeah.
And then Grogu saying it. Every piece of this, loved it.
Yeah, it was great. The setup of this dogfight was fantastic. Now they are approaching Kelvala when these interceptors do attack. Din Djarin leaps out of Bo-Katan's ship to hop in his N1 since he's struggling to take them out using the Gauntlet's defenses. The TIE interceptors fly past Din Djarin as he's descending in air, and Din safely makes it aboard his ship. One of the interceptors stays on him, and Din ends up taking it out with a pretty cool maneuver, I might add. It reminded me of, I think it was Michael Keaton, Batman. He had like a little ship that he went up there, he let it die, and then went back down. But anyway, this sequence was just absolutely sick. And anytime Din Djarin does stuff like this, it immediately makes me think of Favreau's connection to Iron Man. Of course, he directed Iron Man 1, and I believe he directed Iron Man 2. But it just
Yeah, I
kind of
think he
makes
did.
me think that he's got that connection because it just gives me so much Iron Man vibes. Now, obviously, in these moments, something else that I think is very important to consider is the fact that the launch bay that Din leaps out of on Bo-Katan's gauntlet is actually the same launch bay that we see a squad of Mandalorians drop out of in the trailer that we obviously haven't seen yet in Season 3, and it looks like those Mandalorians are dropping into Navarro, which, by the way, next week's episode is directed by Carl Weathers, so I think we're getting that shot next week. But anyway, I digress for that right now. You'll hear from me next week on that one. Zach, what did you think of the Iron Man vibes, Din Djarin's flying sequence here, and then we'll definitely get into Bo's sick maneuvers as well.
Just following along, I think all this is awesome. I thought it was
keep
hilarious
going,
that he
yeah.
like clunkily falls and then lands and like acts all like, all right, I got this. And then he
Yeah.
gets in, and I just loved everything about all of this.
Mhm.
Every piece of it. I just couldn't take my eyes off the screen. And all I could think about was, oh my God, this is just the start of the episode. Like
I
this is
know.
so good.
I know.
I
Now,
thought it was amazing.
that maneuver of Bo-Katan, as far as the whole flapping of one of the wings to get the gauntlet to do like a quick zero-turn lawnmower kind of
Dude.
action, my gosh, it was absolutely pristine in my opinion. And
and-
this is when I noticed and had the realization that this is a top-tier dogfighting sequence, not just for The Mandalorian, but for the franchise itself. It was just shot so well, and I think you've already kind of hit on that.
Yeah, the graphics were incredible.
Mhm.
So is it a cliched thing? Yeah, 100%. This whole like I'm going fast, quick turn, kill, or whatever.
Sure, yeah.
But man, it works every time. I fall
Well,
for it every time. I'm just
What
like,
what was nice
ah!
about this one though, it was done in a way and it utilized her ship in a way that I'd never
I
seen
agree.
before.
Maybe
So I
that's
was
why it worked
surprised.
for me a little bit better because like I knew she was gonna do the old like stall the thing, make it turn. But
Yeah.
I thought it was awesome that it did was like, "Fleep," and then
So
back
cool.
on it. And then it did the whole like, oh no, are they gonna hit the water?
Yeah. Yeah, and
But no.
R5's like floating there.
Oh yeah.
And
That
speaking
was a
of,
cool
R5
shot.
is an absolute scaredy cat yet again in this one.
No, that was a sick shot though, because
Yeah.
like it just added the atmosphere. It was like,
Hmm.
oh man, that's sick. It looks like they're really floating right there, and you're like, oh, and then,
Yeah.
you know what's gonna happen, but you're still like, oh,
Oh, I know. I
man, it's
know,
so
man.
good.
Star Wars was Star Warsing in that moment for sure.
Ah,
Just like
so
all the
good.
comedic small little relief with the droid and Grogu and the flying, it was just done so well. Now,
Makes
I
me
made
so
note of
happy.
this. I found it so funny. After the mission's complete, I love how Din, at least in my opinion, I thought he was trying to impress Bo by saying he didn't get a single scratch on the N1. I thought that was
Oh,
kind of funny. And she
oh,
immediately
100%.
follows up by saying, well, we need to bring the ship in just to be sure. What are you trying to do there, Bo? What are you trying to do?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Just speculation. Just
Oh
speculation.
no. I think that was a little competition there. A little like,
Yeah.
well, I ain't got a scratch, so
Yeah,
I
so
thought
I
that
should
was
lay
awesome.
claim to the Mandalore seat,
Oh,
girl.
I mean, I guess eventually it will come to
No,
that,
we'll
but
see. We'll see.
these
Well,
Mandalorians, man,
they're
they're
loving life. They're loving life there for a minute, right? You know, they've
well, yeah, they get to
succeeded.
do what they
They
do best. They get to
they
be
blew up
together.
the interceptors, but then
That's
suddenly these
Mandalorian
bombers.
bonding right there. That's
Yeah, that's
bonding.
true. That's true. And these bombers wreck it all. They blow it up. They blow up their conversation, they blow up their bonding, and they
Yeah,
blow
yeah,
up this
yeah.
castle that I fell in love with. And we talked about last week about how they should settle down there. Nope, that's not happening. So Bo immediately seeks revenge on these bombers, but even more interceptors begin to arrive, leading the trio to blast into hyperspace to coordinates where they won't find them. I'm not sure who is in the Bo-Katan suit here, but the physical acting was done so well. And now that I think about it, though, I've seen Katie Sackhoff tweet today, and she talks about how she was the one in the suit there. So job well done to her, because you can just see like the helmet
Think it was her.
turns and stuff like that. It's just so great because you immediately knew the stuff that she was going through. Now, the biggest question here has to be, where did these interceptors and bombers come from? Because we know that they can't go in and out of hyperspace on their own. I think Moff Gideon is clearly the logical answer here, but I know the fan base is itching to have Thrawn come up in any conversation, but I don't think we're there yet. What do you think, Zach?
Well, I thought I saw something on Twitter that said the last time we saw these were from Thrawn.
I saw something about some signal that they were giving off was indicative of, is indicative the right word?
Yeah, that's right.
Indicator of
Yeah.
Thrawn potentially, but I don't know about that. I didn't.
I don't
didn't
know
dive
either. I
into
didn't
that.
know about the old forced or the hyperspace jumping. Didn't know about that. So that's very interesting. So they had
Yeah,
to come
yeah.
from some other ship, is what you're
Mm-hmm.
saying.
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting. Didn't know that. Okay. Well, that's cool. But her explanation was like, yeah, we pissed a lot of people off or something like that.
Yeah, because
What did
she
she say?
she basically stole Moff Gideon's cruiser
Oh,
from
okay.
season 2.
I couldn't remember what her explanation of it was. I wondered the same thing, but what kind of not rubbed me the wrong way, but just didn't land was like she's like, that's my home.
Mm.
And it's like this random castle with absolutely nothing around it.
Okay. Yeah.
That made no sense to me. I don't know
Well,
anything about her. So I'm like, okay, that's your home, but there's not,
yeah.
wouldn't there be like a city or
I
like,
I think she views the Mandalore system as a whole, kind of like her home, because she talks about
interesting.
while she's flying, she's talking to R5 and Grogu that she used to fly these cliffs as a kid.
True.
And I
I
mean, so
just,
that line
it was just
immediately made
weird.
me feel like, okay, she's got some connection to this place prior to season 3.
I was expecting to see like this whole world around there, and they
Mm.
just like blow up this one castle that she's the only person in, and that it's
Yeah,
the only like it was just
it's
it was a weird shot for me because I didn't feel it didn't hit me like oh
right.
no. I was just
Okay.
like oh well that
It
sucks.
feels like somebody knows that she's the one that's residing in there, and so they're targeting that one
Yes,
specific
that's what I was
spot.
gonna say. That's where I was going with this. Is that
Hmm.
didn't land for me. The whole like I didn't really care about the castle. What I was way more intrigued of is what like they had to come from somewhere. Someone told
Hmm.
them go bomb this place. So I
Hmm.
want to know about that, and I assume
Yeah,
that's what we're gonna lead into here.
I think
But
so.
I just thought that was very interesting in itself.
Yeah,
This whole front end, man, awesome. I
fantastic,
loved it.
phenomenal. Well, we pause on Mandalorian. And we go to Rangers of the New Republic, in my opinion. I feel like the middle third, really like middle
No,
half,
like
like the entire episode.
85% of the episode. Yeah.
Yeah. I just feel like this is a look at what that show could have looked like had it not been canned. But I still, and again, I'm still someone that appreciates the fact that we do this in this episode. So let's dive into it and see if we can discover some things. So we go to Coruscant. Dr. Pershing is speaking to the masses in the arena where the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise was told in Revenge of the Sith. So that was absolutely fascinating as the prequel lover that I am. He has
Didn't even know
gone
that.
through a. Oh, yeah. I knew it immediately, man. I started freaking out. I'm fangirling over there as soon as I see the steps. He's gone through a New Republic amnesty program to be given a second chance by the New Republic. A former Imperial officer of Moff Gideon's is present as well, played by Katie O'Brien. I believe she's in Ant-Man Quantumania, so you may have seen her recently.
No,
Seemingly,
I think she's in Ant-Man, one of the Ant-Man ones. Yes, that's correct.
Well, it seems like she's gone through the program as well. Now, obviously, we learn later, maybe not, but, we'll get to that. Now, this idea of amnesty program is fascinating to me because it just kind of it kind of sets up like a realness to it, because I kind of imagine, like, Nazis, post-Nazi world had to go through that.
It is Werner von Braun coming to America and building rockets. That's what this is.
Yeah. So I absolutely loved that whole aspect of it. And we can go ahead and get into Dr. Pershing's speech here, his TED Talk, if you will. He's sharing his story. His knowledge and research of cloning was twisted into something cruel and inhumane at the behest of a desperate individual trying to gain more power. He vows he now hopes to help the New Republic in whatever way he can, leaving his past work behind him even though his intentions were good. Suddenly he pauses, presses on his ear, and I think we're going to come back to that later in this breakdown, and shares that he lost his mother when he was young due to her heart giving out, and that cloning could have saved her, and that's what made him pursue cloning knowledge. His work explored the hopes of combining multiple strands. I'm going to say that again because I think that's really important. He explored the hopes of combining multiple strands to create replicas that incorporated the best genetic attributes of both donors. This cloning technique Dr. Pershing was exploring when working with the Empire could easily, in my opinion, be the scientific answer behind how Snoke was created. Also, hearing this all but confirms the body we saw in Season 2 on Navarro was in fact an early attempt at Snoke. My wondering, though, is how does Grogu potentially play into this? Is Grogu part of those combining multiple strands? Because we saw in Season 1 he was extracting some blood. Did he get some midichlorian out of that? My head is spinning whenever I'm hearing these phrases. What are you thinking in these moments, Zach?
I 100% like fell asleep while he was talking. I was like, who? All right, first of all, I barely remember who this guy is. He said something about cloning. That's cool.
I was extremely interested with Dr. Pershing going into this, so I feel like
think
that's why I was
so.
already on board.
I'm being a hypocrite of myself last week, where I'm like, watch it twice. I only watched this episode once.
Man.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
Fair.
How dare me? But I barely got through it the first time. So it was just like, I thought this was the coolest part of the middle part, if that means anything to you. Like, once I realized who he was and he's talking about cloning, I immediately was like, okay, they're trying to tell us why Snoke exists, right? They are trying to answer all of the questions that they just laid on us in the sequel. Yeah. And something about it, I just wish we got all of this before we got the sequels. It makes me so upset because, like, I can't knock the feeling of them feeling like they have to like describe it to us.
Okay.
Like they have to come up with this story. And that's just me being, I guess, a pessimist, but it's like, I think it's very interesting and very cool. And it would make sense that Palpatine, the psychopath that he is, would have all these contingencies and be obsessed with cloning, and all of that makes sense. Grogu makes sense. I saw someone connect Omega from Bad Batch to Grogu and talking about her being a clone, but she's not. She's the first like successful non-replica clone.
Sure. Yeah.
And then Grogu maybe being a clone of Yoda. That's not the case. I'm just saying, like, him being a piece of Yoda's kind, right? And then her being a successful clone, put that together, you get Snoke, and then you get Palpatine, right?
Okay.
So I just thought, oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
And I say all that to say, this just it bored me because I didn't have I was hyped up by the Mandalorian stuff. I'm
Sure.
like,
Yeah.
yeah. And then
You're
we
like,
cut
I
to
can't wait
this.
to get back to that.
And then I have to wait the whole episode to get back to it. So it's like this feeling that never left me. And I think
Okay.
that's why I say it was fine. That
Yeah.
was a really long answer. I'm sorry. But that this is just fascinating to me, the cloning stuff. And I thought we'd get more of that here. I thought we were
Yeah.
going to get into the cloning stuff. But no, it's just him walking around.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying there. I think the answers for that are going to continue to be plotted along, not necessarily all exposition dump at one moment. So
Yeah, I think you're right.
so I guess I wasn't searching for those answers there. Like just hearing his mission and his ideas was enough to be like, ooh, this is enough for me to chew on for a few weeks, because now I get to theorize myself, because now I'm thinking like maybe it was Palpatine's blood and Grogu's blood that were mixed together to bring Palpatine back.
I agree.
Like all that
those
stuff.
little questions was like, ooh, you make it go, ooh, right?
And that's what I guess, podcasting and talking about it week to week makes it exciting for me, because I'm like, ooh, that'll be fun to talk about for a couple weeks and theorize on. But I'm also in these moments too kind of thinking of, were some failed clone attempts the result of Rey's dad? Of course, again, another deep connection to the sequels. But, time will tell. Time will tell. Well, Dr. Pershing wraps up his little speech. I thought it was absolutely funny. As soon as he finishes, he is bombarded with some Coruscant locals. There's one dude that's like Empire, Rebellion, Republic. It's all the same thing. Yeah, that dude needs to be punched. I can't stand that guy. He just seemed so annoying. Absolute clown. But, I mean, he's kind of right.
Is he wrong?
It's all the same stuff. But I don't know. Just something about him. Something about him was like, man, I don't like this dude. He's annoying. Get out of his face, man. Get out of his face. But yeah, and even the droid that's taking him over to the amnesty housing won't shut up. He's just spitting out all these facts with Coruscant, which I loved all the facts that they were dumping.
I knew you were eating
Coruscant,
it up, but again,
by the way.
God.
I know, man. I know.
I knew you were eating it up.
It's then revealed that he's new to the program, and he was just transferred from the Reintegration Institute, and it's at these moments when he gets back to housing that he's invited for a drink with fellow former Imperials, where he comes face-to-face with the former officer for Gideon, now known as G68. In this discussion, it's revealed that there are conflicting rumors of Gideon potentially escaping from the New Republic that are spreading. So 1,000% confirmation that he's alive and well, which I think directly connects to the beginning of the episode. I do think he's the one kind of behind sending those interceptors out there, but we'll definitely wait to see when we get that answer, or if it's somebody else.
Would it be Gideon and then Thrawn above him? Is that
100%.
What our guess
100%.
is here? Okay, yeah. I'm in on that. I'm bought in.
And while you're kind of talking of Thrawn, and I think that's another reason why I'm absolutely fascinated with all this dialogue regarding cloning, is because so much of this they're pulling from that Thrawn trilogy that I absolutely love and adore from Legends. So I think that's another reason why all of these things are landing with me so well. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, any thoughts on the nice little moment of these former Imperials before we move along?
Nah, I was just like, I don't know who these people are, but all I could think about in this moment specifically is what we talked about with the Nazi like rehabilitation stuff. Like that's exactly the vibes I got. It was so believable that this New Republic would do this. You have these scientists from the Empire. Oh, now we're good. Now we're Republic. Never mind all that other stuff. Now do that stuff for us is exactly what I was thinking here. And I loved that aspect because that's very realistic.
Sweet. All right. Well, continuing on here, there's a ring at Pershing's door, and someone dropped off travel biscuits to him. That was the thing that he missed most from the Empire. Before Pershing goes to the door, now this is me really doing a breakdown here, folks, and theorizing. Before he goes to the door, we overhear a data pod informing Pershing of some facts on Coruscant. Here's the quote. Thousands of layers of buildings and skyscrapers cover the entire planetary surface of Coruscant. Because of this, Coruscant is one of only a handful of city planets known as Ecumenopolis, maybe that's how you say it, I can't remember. Though Coruscant is often referred to as the center of the galaxy, it's not precisely located at R, then it's cut off by the doorbell. Now, this is where I'm theorizing heavily and had a lot of fun with this, okay? So bear with me, Zach, and bear with me if you're listening. I did a quick Google search of what in fact is the center of the Star Wars galaxy, and it turns out that it's a massive black hole, literally called the Galactic Center. Now, this is where my theorizing began to play, because Favreau and Filoni have made it clear that all these small little hints all lead to this big connective story. We've reported on this show about Bespin Bulletin hearing that the Ahsoka series, maybe even Skeleton Crew, travels to a new location in the galaxy called the New Beyond. What if to get there, and bear with me, this is wild, what if to get there you have to travel through this black hole? Could this be where Thrawn and Ezra are located, and that's why they can't find their way back? That's me definitely doing just wild speculation, so deep. But, just throw the shot out there and see if it sticks,
yeah,
see if
I
it
love
lands.
it.
That way I can clip it, and Mando Talk looks absolutely fantastic in a few months.
I called it, baby.
Exactly. Thoughts
No,
on
I
that
mean,
theory, Zach? Is it
I,
too wild?
no, dude, is it too wild? Heck no. I could believe that in 5 seconds. Like
Okay, sweet.
if that's what happens. There's this black hole. We got to go through it to get them. All right, boom, I'm in. Like, cool. That's
So
all I
cool.
need. So, completely okay with that. When this robot's rambling on, I wasn't even listening. I was just like, you
I
are
don't think I'm
rambling.
winning you over, man.
Well, no, I'm telling you my experience. I
Yeah,
didn't mean
no,
to like
do it.
talk down on
Absolutely.
your
Do
thoughts.
it.
I want you to, obviously have your
No. I
be
didn't take
happy
it that
about it.
way at all.
But
Didn't
like,
take that way at all.
okay, good. Like I'm just watching this in like this hungover state of just like,
Like you
what are we
just got
talking
over
about?
the fact of a banger opener of Mandalorian.
Yes. I'm like, all right, move this out of the
I
way.
got you.
Where are
I
they
got
at?
you.
And it just never ends. And so, let me for the listeners who are still with us for a second, let me sum up my thoughts, and then I won't say it on probably one more time. This middle section
Okay.
could have been done in about 10 minutes.
I do agree that some of this Dr. Pershing stuff could have been slimmed down for sure.
Maybe even 5 minutes. Have him talk
Okay.
at the thing, have him hang out with this chick, and then her turn
Okay.
bad. Boom.
Okay.
That's all I needed. But
Yeah.
I think by the end of it, I thought what was gonna happen is we were gonna like he's gonna go to his room or whatever. He gets this box. So me being the dummy that I am, I was like, what is that? Is that credits? Is someone like paying him off?
Yeah.
Like, is that him like getting the credits from the Empire, like First Order? No, it's not that. And then I'm like, no, it's not credits. It's these things that he likes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then we
Biscuits.
see the girl, right? So, continue on.
Yeah, well, this girl takes him out on town because they kind of talked about how he needed to explore Coruscant. Now, I got to admit, part of this is something that I wasn't quite vibing with, just because this scene, for some reason, it played as like a Walt Disney World of Coruscant, kind of with the music and everything. That was one thing that I was like, oh, I don't necessarily need to see this, but I enjoyed seeing the locale, if you will, the town and the people communicating. But anyway, in these moments when she takes him out, we get confirmation that there's 1 trillion permanent residents on the planet. That was really cool. This
Yeah, that's
chick
crazy.
chick went through the academy, so she's been there before. She expresses what all Imperials think. They legitimately think that they are doing good. Of course, that's always been the case. These villains in Star Wars always believe that they're actually in the right. Obviously, we know that that's not necessarily the case, though. Pershing thinks about all his research all the time going unfinished. This is where G68 makes her attempt to persuade Pershing. And then, of course, in these moments, we hear March of the Resistance in the background. But this was really the cool moment from this scene for me. It's where we see the highest point on the mountain, Umate, which is the only place on Coruscant that you can see the planet's surface. So I immediately want Disney Plus to release a time lapse of Coruscant being built. I absolutely want to see it.
That'd
So
be dope.
yeah, this scene, it was okay. It was cool, but I really loved the Coruscant deep dive right there that she gave regarding the tip of the highest mountain. That's literally the only thing left that you can see from the original planet. So, any additional thoughts from you from this out on the town scene?
All right. I ain't trying to just be negative, folks. Please, please believe me when I say this.
Okay.
I didn't think this looked great. So
Okay.
going back from where I was talking about the shots are amazing on the ships,
Mm-hmm.
I thought this looked so um what's so volumey to me.
Okay.
Everything just looked flat. I just was like, oh, that doesn't look too good. Like they're supposed to be walking through this world. And again, she's going on about Coruscant. I have no attachment to Coruscant personally.
I love Coruscant.
I know. And that's why I was so excited to hear from you because like
Yeah,
she's saying all this stuff and I'm just thinking in my mind like I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
care. And she's like there's a trillion people and I was like, "Oh, that's a lot of people, that's
It is.
crazy."
It's a ton.
Um
A ton.
and when this was going down, I immediately was like she's bad.
Mm,
Like immediately. She's like,
yeah.
"I'll take you out on the
Too
town and we'll
too
do
nice.
this
Too nice.
thing." And I'm like, she just looks mean. Like she
Yeah.
looks like an imperialist. So like I this like certified to me like, all right, something bad's gonna happen. What I thought was gonna happen is they were both gonna be bad and working together. That's
I
what I
gotcha.
thought.
Yeah.
But turns out might not be the case. But this whole scene was fine. It was fine. It's my
Okay.
least favorite part of the show. I'll say that.
That makes that's fair. That's fair. It was definitely yeah, like I said too. That the scene there in Coruscant probably my least favorite, but
Mhm.
there were some things for me to definitely get out of there regarding, especially the mate part. That was really cool. So
Yeah.
Dr. Pershing has these required meetings with droids, and of course, this is where his wheels start turning regarding getting back into the cloning game. The droid
hmm
says, "No, you can't do that," but obviously, that's gonna give him and G68. Kane is what we end up finding out her last name is. It's going to give them their mission. Of course, that's to go into the restricted zone to get material for a mobile lab for Pershing to eventually show the New Republic the benefits of his research. So, before committing, I do think the episode did a great job of showing the repetitive nature of his lifestyle regarding erasing files of Imperial and Rebel Alliance tech that could still be put to good use, I might add, reporting to these droids, things like that. So, while the droid's questioning Dr. Pershing for a second time, he touches his ear yet again and he lies. So it made me think somewhere in that TED talk that he gave, I don't know if it was him saying that he regretted doing the bad things that he did for the Empire or if it was him giving this sob story regarding his mother. I think somewhere in his TED talk speech though he
He's lying.
lies because
hmm
I think that's just like a trigger that he's
It's a
got.
tick.
Yeah, for sure. And this
hmm
this moment, Pershing then finally decides to commit. And in these moments, we hear something that sounds very similar to Darth Plagueis' theme that plays in Revenge of the Sith when Palpatine is telling Anakin about that story, mixed with Snoke's theme. So that was
Jeez, who
very
figured
interesting.
that out?
Very interesting decision making there. I knew it as soon as I heard it. I was like, oh,
Jesus.
snap.
Okay. I mean,
Snap.
hey, I love that. That's awesome. Again, me, dummy, never ever thought that. I don't even know what Snoke's theme sounds like. Snoke's theme. So
Whoa. Just this massive humming.
I love that. Okay. Yeah, yeah. After you played that sound, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, that's great stuff. Hey, I should
Yeah,
be
yeah.
the vocals for the
Yeah,
next
bring in Caleb. We need the Snoke theme. Um,
for whenever Snoke makes his appearance in
yeah.
Mandalorian. I assume. I guess
Well, it's coming,
could
I guess,
happen.
but
It could happen.
it is going to happen.
Yeah. I guess I
We'll
need
see
to go
something.
back though and listen to the snippet of season 2 when we see the Snoke
Mm,
body. And maybe that one lines up. I didn't think to see if that one sounds similar. It probably does. Probably
I have
does.
no idea, but that's an interesting point. No, and no, yes, I do agree with you about the tick. Like that's
Yeah.
something, right?
It's got to
And
be.
me being like, ooh, he's bad. I thought he had like an earpiece in. I thought he was
Mm.
like listening to like, what should I say?
Now that I think of it
Um,
too, I think that's the ear that Cara Dune
it is,
shot by
and it is
him.
messed up. I saw
Mm,
like because
interesting.
I think I saw like New Rock Stars or someone said that
Oh,
like
okay,
called that
okay,
out.
yeah. Well,
Look at you.
we'll see. Hey. Now, obviously, by the time this episode ends, I don't know how much Doctor Pershing's left to discover or to
Oh
explore.
yeah, interesting.
But
But yeah, go ahead.
interesting stuff there. Well, we do get their mission. You know, they get on this train, they jump out of the train. We do get this super cool shot in this restricted zone of these Imperial Star Destroyers. Now, I know I was geeking out about this because I saw it in a leaked trailer a few months back. So I don't know if this shot was new to you, Zach. What did you think? Just kind of pushing the episode aside, what did you think of just this shot of seeing all of these Star Destroyers just out there and kind of this ominous feeling to it?
I'm a sucker for this shot in Fallen Order and anything. When you
Mm-hmm.
see the massive scale of these destroyers, or not even destroyers, just ships that are this big and they're just like all broken down, and it just like kind of puts it to scale of like
Yeah.
this is way bigger than just this one little tiny ship that we're on or this one person. Like this is trillions and trillions of people. I don't know how
Yeah,
many, but like a lot of
a lot,
people.
a lot.
So I love these shots personally.
Yeah, and it's wild to just think that the New Republic is trying to do this whole amnesty program with so many of those people, and you can only assume that's partially one of the reasons why it's so easy for something like it to spark back up yet again, especially if you can't keep it in check, which it seems like, and we see in this episode, it seems like there's some good reason why they can't keep it in check because they got some pretty stupid doctors working in their in their hospitals. But anyway, we continue on. We go inside the Star Destroyer. We get the officer name officially, Elia Kane. We got a lot of Kanes, Banes, Vanes, all these names going on in Star Wars. It's hard to sometimes keep up, but that's what we're here to do at Mando Talk. So subscribe, whatever. I've already said that. Anyway, continuing on. Pershing is packing up some material. There's some unsettling noises that's going on. Kane declares it's just the ship settling, but of course, she's lying because they run out and they are surrounded by New Republic officers, and it's not both of them that are arrested, it is just Dr. Pershing. So, somehow, some way, she informed the New Republic that Dr. Pershing was wanting to do this. Maybe she tipped him off saying, hey, I'll get him out there if you catch him. I don't know how she worked out a deal with the New Republic, but it seems like she did in some way. And I do think it's important, too, that she took the mobile lab materials from him. So, Zach, what did you think of this reveal as far as her still being bad, still being committed, and obviously still being committed to Moff Gideon, seemingly at this point?
Are we talking about the twist of like her turning
Of
on
her
Pershing?
turning over. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it surprised me actually. I won't lie to you. I was like, oh no, they're both caught. Oh. And then she like turns around and I was like, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe she's not bad. Maybe I was completely wrong. Turns
Mm-hmm.
out I wasn't. But I thought that was a actually good twist there.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that surprised me, and I think that's a very interesting path to go down.
The actress played it well, so well, because
Yeah.
you're talking about how, we know she's bad. I knew she was bad going into the episode, and so she did a good job to make me feel convinced that she wasn't bad anymore
Mhm.
before revealing that she was yet again. So I got to give props as far as the actress goes in that situation. But yeah, I was kind of surprised by the reveal as well. For some reason, I felt like she was still bad, but I also still had that hope in
Yeah,
me
yeah.
that she
I was
wasn't.
like, I was
So
like,
it was
wait.
still like, oh, okay, yeah, she's really going
Yeah,
there. So it worked. It worked for me.
worked
So
for me
we
as well.
we get him to the hospital or wherever, whatever it's called. He's being tested on with what he's afraid of being a variation of a mind flayer, which seems to be known for wiping memory. It was definitely intentional that Pershing says it was a trap to the Calamarian whenever he's sitting there laying on the
It's a
table,
trap.
because of course we've got that line from Return of the Jedi. That was so intentional. Kind of took me out of it for a second.
It laid it
If I
on
got to
pretty
be
a little
honest,
too thick for me because they
yeah.
like he yelled it and then they like cut to the dude.
And
I'm like,
stare at him for a second.
yeah. I was like, okay, we get
Kind
it.
of weird,
You know,
but
even I
I
get
loved
that.
it.
Come on.
But I loved it though. This is 100% a mind flayer, even though they're saying that they're using it at low
Yeah.
voltage just to create this relaxation state. It's this mind flayer thing because of course we then get Kane wanting to stay as the testing begins, declaring that even though he relapsed, he's still a friend. She then cranks up the intensity of the mind flayer, which I'd expect to cause some memory issues for Pershing. And it's at this moment that, of course, it's clear as day that Kane is secretly working for Gideon still, and she enjoys the moment with the biscuit. She's just loving the moment. She's
Yeah.
taking it all, and it's like us going to the movie theater with some popcorn and soaking up the movie. She's enjoying this dude being tormented and tortured
Yeah.
with this mind flayer with one of these biscuits. And it made me think, I don't think she snuck out to get some biscuits. I think she just pulled him off of a Gideon cruiser or something along the way. But what did you think of, first of all, this idiotic doctor that leaves her in there to just conveniently crank this up to
Yeah.
15, and
This
then
whole scene's
just
clunky for
this
me.
whole moment. Okay,
It's clunky.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, they just lay it on so thick. Like, oh, you're one of the good ones. We finally got a good one out of this, and I'm just like, okay, she's about to do something. I thought she was gonna
yeah.
kill that guy, but she didn't do that, which is probably
Mm-hmm.
smart. But again, I was still attached to this thought of like Pershing is still bad and he's working with them somehow. So I did
Mm-hmm.
not expect her to start melting his brain or whatever she's doing there.
Right.
Um, but
Right.
then I'm like, okay, we're talking about all this cloning stuff and how it's going to tie to Snoke. Why are we killing this dude? Like, I thought that was the whole point is we're supposed to be connecting all the dots and doing all
Yeah.
this stuff, but then we kill the dude who has all the information.
Here's my thoughts.
All right.
I think the Empire has what they need from him. They know that Pershing is now in the hands of the New Republic. This for me answers how the New Republic never finds out that Palpatine returns. Because and this is why Thrawn passed it on to Gideon. Gideon passed it on to Kane to kill this dude because they can't let this information get in the hands of the New Republic if Snoke / Palpatine are actually going to make it. So there's the connecting of the dots, at least in my opinion and in my mind. And this is what I talked about at the beginning of the podcast episode where I said it was at this moment that I knew this works for me because for me, that just answered so much regarding, okay, how did the New Republic, who was supposed to be in control of the galaxy, never figure out what was going on with this Snoke Palpatine thing? And I feel like this could potentially be the answer. And that's why I'm saying, like, I appreciate the episode because I see the potential for where this is going. What do you think about that theory?
Love it. You bought me.
Sweet.
I'm sold.
Let's go.
Where do
Let's
I buy
go. I got you.
I freaking love that, dude. That makes me feel so much better about this moment. Because all I could think about was like, why are they killing him? I don't
Yeah.
understand. All of this, what we just saw was for nothing. He's dead. But you're right. You're 100% correct. You are 100% correct.
I feel so good, man. I feel so good.
Yeah.
I got you to see some light from the episode.
No.
It took us 45 minutes to get there.
It makes the whole episode better. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Well, I just kind of think it just makes sense.
Well, the fact that you said how it connects the dots of they don't ever figure out the cloning stuff. They don't find out about the cloning stuff. Oh, it's fascinating. I love that. That's why they kill him.
Yes, 100%.
That's whatever that she's doing to him.
And again,
right?
And this is pure speculation on my part as far as Thrawn telling Gideon and Gideon telling Kane. It may just be Gideon at the end of the day.
Or whoever.
Whoever. But regardless, they're working.
This dude, we have what we need from him. He's in their hands now. We got to plug Kane in and get her to kill this guy.
Exactly. That way, the New Republic never figures out and never finds out. And that's how the events of the sequel trilogy, this moment here, is why those are possible to begin. I know this small moment doesn't set up the First Order and how they get so big. I know we still got some time to get there, but I think this moment here is what makes all those dark Sith secrets never be discovered until it's too late.
I love it. I'm all in on that, boy.
All right, well, that wraps up Rangers of the New Republic, and we're on to Mandalorian episode part 2, baby, where it gets hot yet again. But yeah, it was at those moments where the Dr. Pershing stuff got hot for me in that moment because I was like, oh crap, I see what they're doing. So continuing on here, Mandalorian gets to the location where the Children of the Watch are with Bo and Grogu and R5, all of them. Din instructs Bo that it will go smoother if she keeps her helmet on, and then we get this very interesting conversation where Paz and the other Mandalorians come out to greet them. They have this dialogue back and forth, kind of this tension, if you will. Paz is very critical of Din. He always has been. He tried to go at him for the Darksaber. Of course, that he connects to Pre Vizsla, which used to be the guy that ruled and led the Death Watch, which Bo-Katan was his right-hand Mandalorian during this time to kind of push that pattern along. So now there's definitely this tension between him and Bo and him and Din. So I love this dialogue. But it was very cool to me whenever Paz said, "And who are you, Night Owl?" to Bo-Katan. And she said, "I am Bo-Katan of Clan Kryze." I was really hoping in these moments, even though Din Djarin said, "Keep your helmet on," I was kind of hoping that she would just get ballsy and take her helmet off and say, "I'm Bo-Katan of Clan Kryze. What's up?" And just kind of stick to her guns there a little bit. But I do think you're still right, Zach, in that she's playing the hand that she's being dealt right now. She just hasn't figured out yet, do I go all in with the chips or do I just put a couple down quite yet? So what did you think of this dialogue between Bo, Din, and Paz before we head into the cave?
I think that this entire scene was incredible.
Yeah.
I loved, again, I'm back on the train. I loved it. I want more and more of this. My heart was, first of all, so happy when we went back to him, but
Hmm.
also this is so thick, full of lore. So
Yes,
where
it
I
is.
didn't care about Coruscant so much and you were kind of eating it up, I'm the complete reverse here.
Mm.
I was eating up every moment, every look, every sentence, everything, man. I
Yep.
love even Taylor, my wife, who was already way checked out of the episode. She said it about 4 times, like, "What are
Yeah.
we watching?" She's
My
back
wife
in.
said, "Are we watching Andor?"
Well, she immediately was like, "What show is this?" I'm like, "It's
Yeah.
in."
Yeah.
But she's back in. She
Hmm.
immediately was. I remember the reason I'm saying all this is I remember when Bo walks out and she like speaks up, like,
Hmm.
I was there and the dude calls her out, like,
Right. Right.
so, and Taylor, I heard her go, ooh. And I was
Nice.
like, yeah, let's go. She's back.
Yeah.
And I just thought this was so fascinating. I am so glad she did not take her helmet off. I'm the
Yeah.
reverse of that.
No,
I, I,
I agree with you. I just think it would have
oh,
been really
okay.
cool.
Okay. I was sucked into the fact that she is now in this weird position, right?
Hmm.
She was kind of lost and technically she now has this like tribe, right? Which
Right.
maybe she doesn't want it or any like
Yeah.
all the little stipulations, but she did all the things. She met the requirements.
Hmm.
And so I do you want me to just finish off like the entire
Yeah. Go
scene?
for it,
Or
because
my
we're
I got a
naturally
little
there.
I got a little emotional. I won't lie to you. Like when she said they all say, this is the way to Din. I was like,
Hmm.
ah, that's awesome. Makes me so happy. But then she, lays it out for Bo, and then she says this is the way, and they all say it, and then they start coming up to her and touching her. I got a little emotional. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is awesome. This
Hmm.
is so good, man. What about you?
Well, again, it's kind of those conflicting thoughts because I know from my Clone Wars knowledge, like I know what these children of the Watch are basing their cult, their religion, their stuff
Hmm.
on. It's the Death Watch, and they're so extreme, but yet in these moments, you're right. It's so touching, and you gotta feel like Bo-Katan's probably thinking, "Oh crap, this is what I've been missing. Is this Mandalorian tribe that feels like
This
a family?"
camaraderie, this family, this
Yeah.
culture.
And so it was at that moment too where we get because I'm clueless at this point. I'm not thinking, oh, the armor has blessed Din Djarin and say, yes, you are a Mandalorian yet
Yeah.
again. I'm not thinking for a second that she's going to turn to Bo-Katan and say the same thing. I'm thinking, Bo-Katan, you're going to die because you don't follow the way.
Oh,
That's what I'm thinking she might
no,
say.
no.
But no, she reveals that Bo-Katan Kryze is also redeemed by this creed because she jumped in the water. She went all the way in. And Bo-Katan says that she doesn't want to walk the way, or she doesn't walk the way in the past, but since she has bathed in those waters and has not removed her helmet since she is
Dude,
officially welcomed. It was just mind-blowing to me. Absolutely
the
mind-blowing.
helmet. The helmet is when I was like,
Yeah,
this is fascinating. Because
absolutely.
she's like, have you taken your helmet off? And she's like, well, no. It's like, you're in. It's like
I
Fight Club.
know.
You're like,
I
you're
know.
in. Let's do
It's
it.
now the one thing that
And it
did
was
make
good.
it made me think though is like, okay, so what's the point of the creed then? What are we saying these words for? Because they keep getting cut off. First of all, the kids got cut off. Din
Mhm.
Djarin's got cut off. So they're never finishing the creed, and then Bo-Katan doesn't even have to say the creed. It's not a big deal. I can get by that easily. But it did make me think of that question is, okay, maybe we don't need these words. But it is cool because now Bo-Katan, and like you so well put it, out the gate, Bo-Katan has options here. And
Dude.
we see too, like as she's kind of getting greeted and welcomed, she looks at that mythosaur skull, so you know she's still thinking
Mm,
about the mythosaur that's in the back of her mind.
yeah.
I'm so intrigued with what this show could do, and in
I
that
loved it,
sense,
dude.
I am hooked for the next episode.
Yeah. I don't want to ever see Dr. Pershing again. Maybe we don't. But I was blown away by
Yeah.
this ending. I did not expect it to go this way. I
Mm-mm.
100% expected the whole like, oh, we're not gonna believe you. You're scum.
Right.
But then the flip of like, oh, this is the waters, which I think was so dope. Like
Mm-hmm.
her,
With the
testing
blue,
it
yeah,
out.
that was
I was like,
cool.
okay, that's awesome. it just like it was so believable because like there was no questions asked, right? We've talked about how it's this religion, and that's
Hmm.
basically what it is. And what I love about it is like if you meet the requirements, you're in. There's
Yeah.
no like, ooh, you did this, you sinned before or whatever.
Hmm.
It's like you're in, baby. You're
And
forgiven.
something else too that's very interesting and that plays well for Bo-Katan is the armorer says you can leave the way at any time too, like without any
Yes.
conflict. If you want to leave us, leave us. But as of
Loved it.
right now, you're in the creed.
Loved it.
So
The
intrigued.
armor was
So intrigued.
perfect
Yeah.
because I
Okay.
100% waited on conflict.
And that's another thing too. Like I've been somebody that's had beef with the armor because I'm like, you're just way too by the
Too
book.
radical, right?
But
You're
in
like
these moments,
you're
I'm like,
too
dang,
sticky.
okay, I see you. You're
But
actually
it's
pretty
the flip
good.
side of it. Exactly. She proved that she is sticky to the rules
Right.
with,
Right.
she's like, you took your helmet off, you're out. Well, guess what? You bathed in the waters, baby. You back in.
Yeah.
No other rules. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
okay, the methods are a moot point. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter what they had to do. It's just they did them. They're
Mhm.
in. No questions asked. You're in, baby. Welcome. This is
Absolutely.
the way.
Yeah.
Let's do
Well,
it.
this
Man,
is the
it's so
way.
good.
One thing to point out before we I guess we will real quickly speculate on what we think Bo-Katan will do, but
Okay.
Paz Vizsla does not move, does not welcome Bo-Katan. He is the only one that
Loved it.
has zero response. I definitely think there's going to be some conflict there. So maybe this speculation that I've been having prior to season 3 of the armor and Bo-Katan clashing Beskar with each other, I think it's actually going to be this whole Vizsla versus Kryze thing going on here,
So
especially
what's
with
their
their
history?
past.
Run me through that
So,
again.
so like I was saying earlier,
Yeah.
Bo-Katan worked with pre-Vizsla, which was the leader of House Vizsla and also the Death Watch.
Mm,
But once pre-Vizsla joined with Darth Maul, and that's when Bo-Katan realized, okay, the Death Watch is not good. She bounced and she became their enemy, basically. So
Okay.
like House Kryze and House Vizsla have this past of conflict,
beef.
basically. So
Okay.
he doesn't like her from the get.
Immediately. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I don't care you're in the Creed. I hate you. And you're with Din Djarin, who I basically hate. So it's
Exactly.
like, yeah.
All right, so kick us off. What do you think from here? What do you think
Dude,
Bo-Katan's move is?
I gotta be honest, like I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. Like I love the fact that I don't know what's gonna happen next. I don't know where we're gonna go.
Yeah.
I am so excited for the next episode, especially based on how this one ended. I do think you are correct. We are definitely going to have a conflict with this
Mm-hmm.
Paz guy. It's voiced by Jon Favreau.
Correct. Yeah.
And Taylor thought that was cool, and I thought that's cool too, because
Mm-hmm.
you can definitely hear it in there. And I would do it too if I was him. Come on. Well, he
Yeah.
voiced him in the animation.
Yes. No, he voiced pre-Vizsla, the guy that I was talking about.
Pre-Vizsla.
So he's
Okay.
voiced all these Vizsla, not all, but most of
Vizsla
the like,
boys.
head honcho Vizsla. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
And Vizsla is the Darksaber people. Correct?
Vizsla is the first Mandalorian that we see in Clone Wars that's wielding the Darksaber.
Thought so.
Yes.
All right. So it's all
Yes.
this glory stuff. All
And then
this
Tar
Dave
Vizsla.
Filoni getting all Filoni-y. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I think it's Tar Vizsla. I may be
Is the Darksaber
correct. Yes.
with who's the potential like using the Force and the Mandalorian
Right.
type crossover thing?
Yes.
So cool, by the way.
I
So
could be
dope.
way wrong with that. But
No, I think you are.
It is what
no,
it is.
I don't think you're wrong. I think you're right, but just don't take my word for it.
I'm trying to do a quick fact check with that,
Well,
but
well, I'll go on while you do that.
Yeah, do that.
I think that there is competition that's definitely going to come up.
It was Tar
I think, again, I think it's going to come down to she does the Darksaber, he rides the Mythosaur, they lead together. That's where I think we're headed here.
Okay.
That is my overall season take.
Yeah.
That's the hottest take I can give you, in sense of like what's going to happen.
Mhm.
Because that makes the most sense to me. And
Yeah,
I really like that.
I'm kind of with you as far as prediction go. I don't know who's gonna ride or wield which one, but I do think regardless, at the end of the day, they're kind of co-leading this thing.
Well, the fact that she whipped the Darksaber around
Right.
pretty much
Right.
tells me like, all right, that's her thing. Like,
I've seen
she gets
interesting
that.
theories too about Grogu taming the Mythosaur as well, because they've established in
that he
this,
has a
these
thing
stories
with
that he's got a thing with
beasts.
these big creatures. So I think it's wide open, but I do think to make everyone happy, I think Favreau, Filoni, let's do a co-rallying of the
Well, it makes complete sense.
Mandalorians.
He's the radical, she's the not radical, or well, she is now, but not radical, like she's the other way.
Right.
And she's the dark saber, he's the mythosaur. The way he tames the mythosaur is through Grogu. We just wrote the season right there, baby.
Hey, there you go.
Let's do
That's
it.
what we're here for. Well, real quickly, as we wrap up this podcast episode, let's hear from you guys. So the poll. Let's see what our audience thought. We were split here. I really enjoyed it. Zach thought it was fine. Definitely didn't like the Dr. Pershing stuff, but maybe we convinced them there a little bit with the ending. Just a little bit.
Yes.
Convinced you a little bit.
You still could have taken that big chunk and went.
Right. It could have been bumped down, or it could have just flashed back and forward. Show Bo and Din's mission, then
fair,
Dr. Pershing.
Completely fair.
Din and Bo's mission, Dr. Pershing, back and forth. Anyway, here's the poll results. 38% of our audience said 9 to 10 great. 36 of our audience said 7 to 8 good. 16% of our audience said 5 to 6 okay, and 10% said 1 to 4 bad. So yeah, it's divisive, folks. There you have it.
I was in the okay bucket. I voted in that.
It's split. I would say good. It's not my favorite episode of the season so far. It was definitely last week's. I do think I liked this one more than the premiere, though. I gotta be honest. I liked it better than the first episode of this season.
You crazy?
I did.
What?
I like the world. I like the world building. I love the Coruscant vibes.
Hey, that's your vibes, baby. Whatever.
Let's get these tweet thoughts in here as well. So from Blue Jedi, 5.5 for me this week, unfortunately. Bookends were great, and I agree completely with what they were trying to do. Nothing wrong with getting away from the main thread. Watched twice now, and for me, the acting and directing let the middle section down. Still buzzing for next week. I feel like that kind of summarizes your thoughts there, Zach, honestly.
Perfect. Love that.
All right.
About the acting thing, too.
Yeah.
I agree about the middle acting. Didn't work completely for me.
It didn't work for you.
I'm trying not to be so nitpicky. That's a nitpick thing.
Okay.
But the girl specifically,
okay,
she just laid it on. So
that's why you gave me a weird look when I said she did a good job.
Yeah, she's eating the thing like, ooh, I'm
okay. Those things were weird because they were biting them, but nothing was coming off, and then they immediately talked with no substance in their mouth.
I was just like, all right, we're laying it on so thick.
But it's Star Wars, so
yeah,
what can I say? What can I say?
I agree. Tweeter.
Yeah. Blue Jedi. Jessica Sitten.
Blue Jedi.
It was good. Not quite as good as last week, but that's okay. Pershing's story was good. A bit long for me, but how it ended was awesome. The beginning and ending of the episode was fantastic. I'd like to have had more Mando. And I feel like that first watch, I said it, I was conflicted at first. We've waited 2 years to see Din and Grogu. You better put Din and Grogu on my freaking TV screen, folks.
Not Pershing and a no-namer. Come on.
So I was a bit bummed in that sense. I have to admit it. But I do think the world building here is going to eventually pay off. I really do. I think we just have to practice some patience, and I think it's all going to click. All right, from Speederbike Tim on Discord, which, by the way, if you want to join our Discord, that link is in the description for even more one-on-one conversation with myself. I absolutely love talking to you guys. Speederbike Tim said, so now the Armorer knows the planet isn't cursed, and Din and Bo-Katan are both redeemed and allowed back in the clan. I wonder how long Bo-Katan will keep the Mythosaur sighting a secret. I think she's going to hold on to that hand as long as she can. I think she's going to wait until she knows for a fact what she wants to do. As far as, is she going to just do this thing completely on her own? Does she need to become a official child of the Watch? Even though I know she is. I'm saying, like, will her heart officially commit to it? Or does she just completely leave Din Djarin? I don't know, but I think she's literally going to hold on as long. And that may be our season finale moment. That may be our big reveal of seeing what Bo-Katan's going to do and how that impacts Din Djarin and Grogu's story. And that's how they segue us into the next season. What do you think, Zach?
No way. It'll be way before then, I think. I think it's going to be like either next episode or the next.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Well, how many is there? 8?
8, like normal, yeah.
So, that seems like a mid-season thing to me.
Really? Okay.
So,
well, we do know next week, the 4th episode, it's been reported, and this is bad news in my opinion.
Yeah.
30 minutes long, so it's a bummer.
Bananas.
That's sure bananas. A bummer. We just came off of one of the longest episodes yet that didn't feature Din, Grogu, Bo.
It's crazy, dude.
Again, I still loved it. Just want to preface that. But seeing that 30 minutes for next week bums me out. But it gives me hope that Carl Weathers is directing it because I think it's going to be action-packed because his one in Season 2 was action-packed.
But what's the story,
Well, I think,
that's what I don't...
and that's a great question. I think it's got something to do with maybe the pirates and Din needs to go back to help them, and he brings the entire squad of the Children of the Watch because in trailers we've seen the Children of the Watch jumping out of that gauntlet, and also we've seen Paz Vizsla absolutely loading it up.
Yeah, you might be right about
blasting.
that. I think
so
you're right.
I think it's going to be action heavy. I think it'll be an action heavy 30 minutes, but we'll
especially with it
see.
being shorter. I think I agree with you on that.
So, okay, one quick thing. I do think the next episode needs to land. I'm starting to get this sense that this season's not clicking with everybody like the other two seasons, and that really bums me out because it is clicking with me, but I'm just getting this sense, man, that it's like the magic that Season 1 and Season 2 isn't as consistent. I'll say that. I don't think it's gone. I think it's not as consistent at the moment. So I really think this show has got to start clicking on all cylinders to get people like my wife or my sister-in-law or brother-in-law and people like that aren't diehard sweaties like me that freak out about a rock on Coruscant.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I don't know if I agree. I think I think this season's still good. Like, I still think it has the vibes, and the reason I know it still has the vibes is because when I see Grogu and Mando, I'm good. Like, that's all I need.
Okay.
I think I said this, and I'll be quick. I think the Mandalorian is one of my favorite recent characters of all time. Or I shouldn't say it recent character of all time, but like one of my favorite recent characters in any entertainment.
Yeah.
I love him. I love
great.
his design. I love his personality. I love his actions. I love his thought process, his tie to the creed. Everything about him works for me. I love him so much.
Great.
I bought a pop
I love
of
hearing
him
that.
today.
You bought a pop?
I bought a Apollo
Nice.
pop of him
Yeah.
because I love him so much.
Yeah, he's great.
He's just so good, and it just confirms like and him and Bo in the ship. It's like Mandalorians are so sick.
Yeah,
Their character design and their costume design is so cool.
Yep.
Or like with the owl, and she immediately knew that she was part of the owls or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, that was so cool. Like, I just thought that was
Paz
sick.
Vizsla knew, yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep those Vizsla names straight sometimes. They all start with P.
The Vizslas.
Paz,
and the
Pre,
Kreeses
whatever.
Yeah,
but hey, that's what Mando Talk's here for. We appreciate you so much for listening to this podcast breakdown yet again. Again, if you haven't already and you're still listening, hit the subscribe button.
Yeah,
hit the like. Do
Follow
whatever you got to do. Rate us 5 stars. Twitter at Mando Talk. Do all those great things. It's been already quite the ride. I already said at the top, the pod numbers last week popped off, and I can't wait to see this thing just keep on rising. The Mandalorian is fantastic to cover, and it seems like a show that just clicks with so many people, and I just hope it keeps those vibes going so we can keep talking about it. Well, Zach, thank you so much for being here yet again. Any final thoughts you want to say to the lovely listeners that are now part of Clan Mando Talk once they hit that subscribe button?
Yeah, I want to say thank you for having me, first of all. I love doing this. I'm excited to see where we go. Same thing as I said last week. Like, I really love this show, and I know I talked down on this episode a little bit because I want to be honest with y'all.
Sure.
But also, it didn't like deter me at all. I'm excited for next week. The ending was just picture perfect, and
Yes,
if we get more and more of that, I am going to be a happy boy.
There you go. Well, can't wait for next week to cover Chapter 20. We're already to the 20th episode of The Mandalorian. Can't wait to do it. We'll be here to do it. So, till next time, as always, we have spoken.